There are many, it's hard to know where to start with Louisiana, but I was born here. And in Baton Rouge, because my parents both went to LSU, they thought, to them that was the most transcendent experience in the world. Is my mother came from Dodson, Louisiana, from the north, and my father came from Ville Platte, Louisiana, and at the time that was a very mixed marriage. It was like, with both families horrified. I went to school in Grand Coteau at Sacred Heart Academy, and that gives you a different feeling of Louisiana. It was a wonderful place to sort of grow up. And then after I was married, my husband was from New Orleans. I think the fogginess is one big thing. I always just adored the fogginess. And the otherness of it. That title, Spemidalium, means hope and no other. Well, it has my two favorite things that I feel like come from New Orleans directly, hope and otherness. And I always feel connected to it, always feel part of it. And in New Orleans, I know sometimes we get frustrated with the otherness of it and want to be more mainstream. I used to feel frustrated about being an artist, and then you're not really taken seriously in New York, you're not mainstream. But then once I got to New York, I found out that the mainstream is always being informed by what's outside of it and the otherness, and keeps getting unfolded into it. So the more I emphasized my otherness that came out of here, the better things were for me then. I've always had a studio by the water. When I was in New Orleans, I was on Dante, and there was a levee in between, but the water is a big part of it. And ever since I've been in New York, I've had a studio with this. It's above the Hudson River, and it's a great view. And more than, well, looking at the energy of the water it's just like one of those things, like having the brush marks every day. It's the water's teaching you something that you have a curiosity about, and you don't even know. It's sort of underneath everything. And the light. And the light on the Hudson is different from the light on the Mississippi, as we all know, and it's very warm and beautiful here, almost like Venice, and around the water, and that's the pull. And on the Hudson, especially in New York, it's like very steely and somewhat cold. So that's part of the inspiration of it. The person that is a young artist, follow your heart, and that's not easy. And you just have to do a lot of internal thinking and don't be afraid of leaving if that turns out to be what you might think you need to do. I notice here, though, that there's much more of a dialogue with contemporary artists than there was when I was here and when I left. It was really, you didn't go visit each other's studios, you didn't have talks. And I think since Katrina, I've noticed that there's much more of a dialogue between artists. There always was with musicians, because it's necessary, and that's the kind of dialogue that happens in New York between visual artists, which I love, but I think it happens here now too, and there just needs to be more support for that, I think, because it's not an easy thing. It's not even easy in New York, but I see it happening here more than when I was here.